You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. God bless America. You know, we had Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing yesterday, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I was scared that the Democrats were actually just going to give up and say, you know what, Trump's put out some highly qualified nominations, appointees, and let's get it over with, get these confirmation hearings over with. But no, thankfully they gave us stuff like this.
Yes, are you willing to support our veterans organizations that will help our veterans get every damn thing that they deserve because they signed on the dotted line to keep us safe?
Well, what would we do without Democrats making fools of themselves? I would not have a show. Thank you for tuning in to the JD Rucker Show. If you're watching on my Rumble channel, you will notice a new time. Yes, we are doing this, trying it out, at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. That is the at least the temporary new time. Could be permanent. We'll see. We will see how it goes. You know, we've been trying different times, different ways to get the message out. I want to reach as many people as possible. So you let me know what time's best for you. Reach out to me by going to jdrucker.com/talk. jdrucker.com/talk, or you can hit me up on X. I have open DMs at JD Rucker. We've got a heck of a show today. Crazy stuff, and I might even have some time, hopefully, to talk about quantum computing, which I know everybody is just dying to talk about. That's a topic that everybody loves. Yeah, let's get to the first story. America faces huge population crisis. Deaths will outpace births in 8 years. Now, this report comes to us from the CBO, and generally speaking, the CBO, even though it's nonpartisan, its conclusions, generally speaking, lean to the left. They're not majorly biased, but they do express certain biases. So when you look at a report like this, you have to wonder what could their conclusion be? Are they going to focus, for example, on abortion? Or are they going to focus on how promiscuity and as a result birth control, or even utilizing abortion pills for birth control, those various aspects of American society that are destructive, are they the influencing factors in this? No. They're actually looking at the intended reduction in illegal immigration as one of the culprits in their estimates. Oh my gosh, we're going to have fewer illegal aliens, and therefore we're going to have fewer people giving birth. And as we know, or maybe you don't know, but as I know, the fertility rates amongst the illegal aliens is much higher than the fertility rates amongst American citizens. It's a cultural issue. But it's more than that. I would argue that there is at least likely certain scientific studies say that our health practices, including what we eat, what we drink, the drugs we take, the injections that we have put into our bodies, that those too have detrimental effects on our fertility. But let's get to this article, because there's one shocking thing about it. Now, few things shock me anymore, but this one little statistic shocked me. This comes from Life News. Jaron Krausen over there published. Annual deaths are expected to exceed annual births in the United States by 2033, a new report estimates. Population growth in the U.S. is expected to stagnate between 2025 and 2055 as fertility rates continue to decline, a report released Tuesday by the Congressional Budget Office found. A predicted significant decline in illegal immigration, as well as many women choosing to delay motherhood, are two contributing factors. Now, here's the part that blew me away, because I'm thinking, okay, so they're just saying it's declined over the last 60, 70, 80 years or whatever. But no. Listen to this. After peaking at 2.12 births per woman in 2001, fertility rates have been slowly decreasing. And they say slowly. I'm not sure what they're talking about slowly, because it's dropped to 1.62 births per woman in 2023. That's more than 1/5 reduction. Okay, that's like a 21% reduction in birth rate in 22 years. That's not slow. That's terrifying. Just saying. The report estimates this number to fall to 1.6 by 2035 and remain steady through 2055. I'm not sure how they get that. Look, when it comes to predictive models like these, I'm very skeptical of anything that goes beyond a few months, let alone, in this case, a few decades. So I'm not buying into that, especially it seems as if anything, they're trying to downplay the threat here. Because let's face it, the threat is the globalists, the depopulationists of the world. And according to this study, they're winning at least the long game. They're playing 3 different games here. They're playing the short game. This is the thing where they do when they just wipe out a whole bunch of people at once. And they're playing the medium game, which I would argue could be, for example, injections that they give to the masses that could weaken immune systems, so where they can attack us, maybe not you and me, but other people, attack them over time and reduce their life expectancy and reduce their fertility, for example. But then the long game seems to be habitual. Let's get enough people to embrace abortion and transgenderism and promiscuity and all the things. And people will always ask, wait, how is promiscuity going to how is that going to reduce fertility rates? Well, duh, okay? But since I do have to explain, or you may have to explain it to somebody who asks you will find that the most promiscuous men and women out there tend to have a lower birth rate. And it's not the pregnancy rate. The pregnancy rate is high. The birth rate is generally much lower. And that's a problem. When people decide to become husband and wife for life, they tend to have children, if they can. And when people are out there thinking, living it up, hey, I'm going to be that 50-year-old, still hitting the clubs or whatever, they tend to find ways to prevent themselves from becoming parents. So that's when I say promiscuity, I'm really talking about promiscuous lifestyles. It's not the act of sex that slows down the reproductive process. It's the choosing to be promiscuous, choosing to live life as a party. That is where we get into challenges. The depopulationists are hitting us up from these 3 different angles, and we have to address all 3 of them if we're going to stop them. And I think we're doing a decent job at slowing them down, at least on the short and the midterm. Maybe. Decent job. We could do better. But the long term, that's where we're losing miserably. And I think these numbers demonstrate that. And the sad part is, I think these numbers are pretty darn conservative. French woman who left her husband scammed out of more than $850,000 by Brad Pitt. And as I check my notes, it wasn't actually Brad Pitt, of course. It was AI Brad Pitt. The article from Sean Joseph over at Outkick details the sad story. And there is a lesson to be learned here, even if you're not one who would fall for the idea of Brad Pitt being in the hospital and needing all of your money in order to get his kidney replaced. 1 minute, you're a middle-aged French woman living your life and minding your own business. The next minute, Brad Pitt is reaching out to you. He's in the hospital. He needs money because of his divorce, and you're his only hope. The only problem is, obviously, it's not Brad Pitt reaching out. He's not sending you pictures from the hospital, and you're not falling in love with the real Hollywood actor. Unfortunately, you've been scammed, and now you've lost your husband and more than $850,000. That happened recently to a woman named Anne, according to reports coming out of France. The woman believes she was in a romantic relationship with a 61-year-old actor who, since we're talking about it, still has his fastball. The story should serve as an example of that. Anyway, back to Anne here. She reportedly divorced her husband and sent scammers who used AI-generated images of Brad Pitt 830,000 euros or $850,000. Now, if you can look on the screen, you'll see, I know there's small versions, but I can tell you this, these aren't great AI pics. I mean, I've seen much better, and the fact that these pics could scam her is is pretty telling. And it's not just telling about her. I mean, obviously she was extraordinarily gullible, and there's probably at least a little bit of I don't know, loneliness, mental illness. Well, I don't know. I don't know what can compel anyone to do anything like this, but it happened. The money, according to the scammers, was for kidney treatments. Why could a famous actor worth $400 million pay for his own kidney treatment? Why couldn't he? Well, apparently it's because of the Angelina Jolie divorce. AI Brad Pitt told Anne that his bank accounts had been frozen due to the divorce proceedings. The 53-year-old interior decorator spent a year and a half buying into the scam. So not only, look, let's just stop right there, because this story is just going to make me more and more angry. Not only did she get scammed, she got scammed over an extended period of time. They were playing the long game with her, and they took her for a whole lot of money. There's nothing humorous about this, but it does highlight two realities. Number one, these types of scams are rampant and growing. Okay, they don't just use AI pictures of Brad Pitt. It doesn't just have to be celebrities. Artificial intelligence can start generating voices after hearing very short clips from somebody. So they might, for example, call you and talk to you, ask you some questions about whatever, or hear a recording of your voice on YouTube or something, and then next thing you know, they're figuring out your phone number or the phone numbers of your loved ones, calling them and saying, hey, acting as you, using an AI voice generator, saying, hey, I'm in a bind. I need this. I need that. Can you send me $50, $500, $5,000, or in this case, over a period of a year and a half, $850,000. Now that again was a delusion around Brad Pitt, but it doesn't take super gullibility for us to be taken by artificial intelligence. We are also, and this is the part where they keep talking about, hey, we need to set aside a government program that's going to use artificial intelligence to fight fake artificial intelligence that's generating misinformation, disinformation, fake news, lies, whatever. That in itself is terrifying. But there's a flip side to all of this, and this is the part that concerns me almost as much as the scam aspect of it. Okay, let's assume that you are smart enough or maybe not desperate or gullible enough to fall for AI taking your money or taking anything at all from you. What about in the other direction, though? Is it possible that we can, as a society, become so jaded by AI, so distrustful of anything that we see, that we stop believing anything that we see? Maybe even real stuff. And I can certainly picture, and I think it actually happened last year at one point, somebody tried to claim that a voice or audio recording or a video of them was not actually them, that it was AI generated. We're going to start seeing this more and more. People that get busted, especially if they're politicians or celebrities or whatever, famous people, are going to say, oh, no, that definitely wasn't me. That's AI generated. I wasn't there. That's not me doing those bad things. That's AI. And perhaps they'll even have some PR company bust out with some more AI fake videos of them doing other things that are clearly not them. And then people will be like, oh, wow, now I can't even believe my own eyes. They used to say Pixar didn't happen. They used to then say videos or it didn't happen. Now it's just, it didn't happen. If something happens and people don't like the narrative that surrounds it, especially powerful people, all they got to do is say, oh, no, that's AI. It's not me. That's going to happen, folks, especially as AI gets harder and harder to distinguish from real life. I don't have a solution for it. Just warning you, it sucks. As do so many things surrounding artificial intelligence. Last year, my long-term storage food company, Prepper Farms, was partnered with and actually owned by another corporation. I know that nobody knew this. Very few people were even aware that this was the case, because our production, our systems, everything was in place and working just as it should be. People would go, they would put in promo code JDR at prepperfarms.com. They would receive the maximum possible discount, as always, and then they would get their long-term storage beef. Things, what you didn't know and what we can now explain now is that this year in 2025, we have gone back to the original ownership structure. And I'm very excited about that, because that puts me finally back more in charge. And I am super excited about that concept, not because I crave power by any means, but because I feel that as an America First veteran-owned company, that we need to focus on helping Americans to prepare for whatever is to come, whether it's natural disasters or emergencies or de-dollarization, food crises, bird flu, whatever it is. we do expect something to happen, which is why we built prepperfarms.com in the first place. The idea here is to get high quality, all American, all Texas beef, the good stuff, ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, all of that good stuff, and freeze dry it naturally to give it a 25-year shelf life. We don't add any preservatives. There's only one ingredient, and that's beef. Lasts 25 years in the bag, and that's awesome. So support this show, support me, support yourself and your family. Protect yourself for the future by stocking up on long-term storage, high-quality beef. Go to prepperfarms.com. That's prepperfarms.com. Use promo code JDR, and you will receive the maximum possible discount. Nearly every House Democrat votes against bill to protect women's sports. And I would argue that it's not just about women's sports. It's about setting the agenda, setting the stage for reality to finally, hopefully, Lord willing, creep back into American society. The woke mind virus has made it to where there's apparently 57 Heinz varieties of genders and whatever that they want to throw out there. In reality, there's men and there's women. That's it. Okay, there's a few very, 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 very rare exceptions, and those exceptions are just anomalies. They're not the type of things that you would want to make a rule over, and yet, for whatever reason, the woke mind virus has forced the left to embrace lunacy, anti-science, and anti-faith at the same time. They're just making everybody mad. Rebecca Zelko over at The Blaze talked about it. She said, this landmark legislation amends Title IX so that protections are recognized based on sex rather than the gender identity in individual claims to adopt. The bill was brought forth to confront the increasing concerns surrounding male athletes who identify as transgender and then compete in women's sports. The bill states that any federally funded sports program designated for women or girls that allows a person whose sex is male to participate will be in violation of the law, and therefore they won't get the funding that they want. The legislation goes on to clarify that sex shall be the recognized based solely on a person's reproductive biology and genetics at birth, as it should be. This is what makes total sense. Now, unfortunately, this is going to almost certainly, unless they can get seven Democrats and keep every Republican in the Senate, then this is going to get filibustered, and we're going to have to take a different approach to make this happen. But I'm glad to see that at least they're making the effort, and I was also very glad to see Mike Johnson, who I've had, obviously, many challenges with Mike Johnson, but he does speak the truth here when a pretentious journalist, I hesitated to use the word, but we'll go ahead and say, fine, reporter, journalist, whatever, asked a ludicrous question, and Mike Johnson gave what I consider to be a very good answer. Not the best answer, but a good one for Mike.
You led off by stating that a man is not be a man. A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and not become a woman, and that's what Scripture teaches. That's at least the second time I've heard you reference that. Can you say why you think Christian Scripture teaches that? I'm curious about your response to various other Christian traditions. European Scripture differently. Ordained, okay, transgender.
Well, it goes back to the first book in Genesis. Male and female, he made them. I mean, this is pretty clear. I'm not sure there's another interpretation, but everybody's open to interpreting Scripture however they will. But this is comports with common sense as well. So we know it from our religious tradition, which I believe is the truth. I'm a Bible-believing Christian, make no apology about that. But whether you regard that as the truth or not, it's also nature. It's biology. And biology is not bigotry, as we say. Anyone who would accuse the supporters of this legislation otherwise is ill-informed. This is to protect women and girls. It's very clear. It's been articulated well. And you've heard examples. Riley's one of the most famous. But again, it happens all the time, all across the country. Congress has a role to play here. We should step into this arena. And it's an appropriate thing for us to do. So we make no apology for it. And this is not out of dislike or discrimination against anybody at all. This is the right thing to do, and it's to protect women and girls, and that's our role here.
He is right. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Mike Johnson by any means, but when he's right, he's right. In that case, he was right. Quick shout out to the only two Democrats who voted in favor of the bill. That would be Representative Henry Culler and Vicente Gonzalez. So remember those names. These are Democrats that maybe more can come around Look, here's the thing. This issue, the entire LGBTQIA plus supremacy agenda issue, is one that must be fought on a cultural basis. This isn't, I mean, sure, we can fight it politically, but we're not going to win. Not enough. We can't wait around for DC and for the states and for cities and for other organizations to come around to reality or to come back to reality. We have to fight this culturally. In other words, we need to be able to talk to people, to educate them. And this isn't just about protecting women and girls and their sports. This is a direct attack. The entirety of the trans supremacy agenda is about attacking the faith. The reason that they want to indoctrinate and then physically change people, as many people as possible, particularly children, make them make life-changing, irreversible decisions at young ages, is because they know that once they can get somebody into that belief system, they're far less likely to embrace biblical values. If you tell somebody and convince them that they're in the wrong body, then that means one of two things. Either God made a mistake and put them in the wrong body, or God doesn't exist at all. This has always been a spiritual battle, and we can and should fight it spiritually, but we must also fight it culturally. We need to be able to educate people and to shame those who continue to engage in what I consider to be child abuse. So yeah, good on Mike Johnson for invoking the Bible to some extent. Good on House Republicans for pushing forward with bold legislation. Now let's see if they can actually do something in the Senate, which I'm very doubtful that they'll be able to do anything at all. Before I get on to the next story, I want to ask you all a favor. I am searching for an expert that I can interview. And actually, technically, it would probably be multiple experts, because I want to talk about artificial intelligence. I want to talk about artificial general intelligence. And I want to talk about quantum computing and how the three of them, because they are three separate things that are intertwined but still separate, I want to look at the threats. I want to expose the threats. This is something that, I've been looking around at other show hosts, other podcasters, other blogs, whatever, seeing who in the conservative and or Christian field media are talking to AI, AGI, or quantum computing experts, and I'm not finding anybody. So that's what's like, holy cow, wow, nobody's talking about these things, all being existential threats to the human race, components of what I believe to be the end times. You'd think that there would be more understanding of it. And as I started looking myself to try to find anybody, experts, what I found is that the only people that are really, really quote-unquote experts on these things are people that are huge proponents of them. So it's like, wow, I'm not going to be able to get this guy to admit that it's an existential threat because he loves it. Or I can't get that girl to tell me about the risks because she thinks that the qubits are tapping into the multiverse, and that's why they're able to the quantum computers can make such amazing computations in such a short period of time. I think that it's tapping into the demonic realm, that it's breaking the veil, and that we're talking about a very serious breach into the supernatural. But hey, we have different opinions, don't we? I need some experts to talk to. So if you know anybody, please reach out to me. jdrucker.com/talk. That'll get an email directly to me. On X, you can find me with open DMs at JD Rucker. I need to talk to somebody about this because the alternative there is that, hey, look, if people are just going to continue to not talk about it, or if I can't find experts that aren't completely just enthralled by it, then I'm going to have to become an expert myself. And that's going to take a long time. I've already done probably, 20, 30 hours worth of research into everything from Google Willow to what OpenAI is doing. the advancements within AGI itself, the advancements of quantum computing, the theories behind it, because all they have are theories. That's the funny part. So we're talking about something that has so much instability that they only have theories about why it works. It works to some extent. Sometimes it works miraculously, and they still don't know why. You'd think, before you start tapping into things, that you'd have an understanding of what you're tapping into, but they don't. They don't. So I need to do a lot more research, but I need to talk to people. And I'm asking you, do you know anybody? Have you seen any documentaries, heard any interviews, read any articles? I don't care. Is anybody else ringing the alarm bell about AI, AGI, or quantum computing, or all three? Because I need to talk to them. So reach out to me. Let me know who you find, who you know, and then any questions you might have. This is something where we've contemplated. I'm close to asking somebody to fund a documentary of some sort. I just don't know I don't know if I could do it, because I don't know if I have the time to be able to do it. But somebody needs to expose this. And here's the thing. Now, let me be clear before I know I'm running lower on time. Let me be clear about the why about this. There is no way that you or I or anybody outside of God can stop this from happening. AI is advancing. It will not stop unless God stops it. AGI is burgeoning. It will emerge unless God stops it. And don't even get me started on quantum computing, because that's something where if and when it is achieved, it's a game changer. It's a paradigm shift. It risks the destruction of modern society. Just no big deal there, right? All these things are happening, and there's no way that we're going to be able to stop them. But we can prepare for them. And that's what I'm really looking for. I'm really trying to get as many people as possible ready for what is coming. Because they are coming. They are. And if those who... This isn't something that's going to just... we're not going to see it a mile away. We are a mile away already. And many of us can see it. When it actually starts to hit, it's not going to creep. It's going to explode. It's going to be fast. It's going to be sudden. And the world is going to start changing. And at that point, if you haven't become prepared for it, if you haven't figured out ways or planned for ways to, for example, go analog, live differently, acquire new skills, because even skills that are huge today may be obsolete tomorrow. There's a story, and it's actually a contested story, but it's we'll go with the Netflix version, the Reed Hastings, and I forgot what his partner's name was. There's a story about how when Netflix in the early days, they were struggling, they were burning through money, they were about to have tens of millions of dollars loss. They were pretty desperate, and they'd been trying for months to get a meeting with Blockbuster. And finally, Blockbuster, at this point, I think they had like 3,000, 4,000 stores. And finally, Blockbuster agreed, and they said, okay, fine, you can be at our Dallas headquarters in like 12 hours. And they're somewhere on the upper northwest. They're like, holy crap, we can't do this. We're going to have to like charter a plane. We've been trying for months to talk to them, and they finally said, okay, we'll give you a window of opportunity, be at our corporate office in like 12 hours, and we can do it. And so, but they found a way. They were able to go there, and they did, and they had their meeting, and they were allegedly really awesome, and they said, hey, we should partner, you guys should buy us, we can run your online stuff, blah, 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 blah. And then Blockbuster executives, and they asked, how much are you talking? They're like, yeah, $50 million. And they were almost literally, I say almost because as the story goes, the CEO of Blockbuster started to smile, started to chuckle, but held back and remained professional, to his credit. But they said no, not even, no, just there was no counter offer, nothing. Just we'll drive you back to the airport. Good luck, have fun. Of course, that was what 7 years before Blockbuster had to file for bankruptcy, and of course we all know what Netflix has become. I'm very concerned that when I go out there and I say AI, AGI, quantum computing, it's the next big thing, it's going to hit us hard. I'm concerned that I'm being treated like Netflix was being treated back then, that a lot of people were like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, like whatever. I know it can be used for scams. You covered that earlier in the show. Sure, people get scammed out of money, or it can be used for deep fakes, or yeah, but these are things we'll get used. You know what? It's going to happen, and we'll figure out ways to deal with it. When it happens, and that's not what's going to happen. When it hits, and it will hit, unless God says otherwise. When it hits, it will hit us hard. And just like Blockbuster, once they started finally realizing, holy crap, maybe we should have bought them for $50 million, they started trying to compete against them instead, trying to get into mail. Here's a physical store that's trying to get people to not come into the store. At that point, they should have known we're failing, because we're literally trying to get people to stay at home and have us mail them movies, like Netflix, because at the time it was all done via mail. Well, of course, they went under. They disappeared. Over 4,000, maybe 5,000 stores across the nation. They had an empire, a Blockbuster empire that was gone. I mean, just vanished. Went from growth to zero in less than a decade. And that's a long time compared to what we're going to experience. Right now, things seem to be growing, getting better. We've got President Trump coming in. We've got, China's looking like they're having hard times. Russia's having hard times. Technology seems to be getting better. The economy, the DEI is dying. Wokeness is going away. We're getting, looks like we're going to be able to get some people confirmed. Oh my gosh, all these day-to-day activities there, everything's looking so great. But when the threats start popping up, my concern is that we're not going to be ready for it. So that's all I want. I just want as many people as possible, to be ready for what's coming. And I feel like the only way that I can help to achieve that is if I can somehow get the word out, make people aware to start getting ready. And it doesn't require massive, massive changes to your life. I mean, you can do it incrementally. It's not like, you've got to go, move to Alaska. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we have to assume certain things are going to happen between now and when things start getting crazy. And I don't know if things are going to start getting crazy this year or next year or in 20 years. I don't think it's going to take 20 years, though. I mean, if I'm looking at the progress, looking at how they were able to advance with Willow so fast, listening to what Sam Altman over at OpenAI is saying, concerned about what he's not saying, these things tell me that the advancements that will lead into what I believe to be the darker days of the end times, these advancements are right on our doorstep. I couldn't imagine it taking 20 years. I pray that it will take a long time, but I am not going to sit back and just hope that it does, because we can, as Bible-believing, patriotic Americans, we can start getting ourselves and our lives and even our communities and our families, we can start getting ourselves ready for what is to come as best as we can, because nobody knows what's coming. That's why I want to interview somebody. So I want to talk to multiple people, as many as I can. So if you know anybody, please, at JD Rucker on X, or Send me an email by going to jdrucker.com/talk, and let's figure this out. Let's figure this out. But in the meantime, let's get to the next story. All right, here's a normal story. It's funny, after doing this transition myself, I have transitioned not in a physical or sexual or medical way, but I've transitioned from doing straight up politics to doing more conspiratorial, more I would say important stuff, biblical, conspiratorial, things that a lot of these show hosts aren't talking about. But it's nice to get into a story like this one. Every now and then that it's a lot more just straight up politics. I do miss it sometimes. Not a lot, but especially after talking about AGI and and quantum computers, let's talk about some normal stuff. And this is one you can mark this as of course this makes perfect sense. At first it might not, but once you start thinking about it, it does make sense. Over 100 detransitioners and advocates back RFK Jr. for HHS. Now, when I first read the headline, I was thinking, what in the world? Why? Where's the connection here? And then I was like, informed consent. RFK Jr. is, of course, a huge champion of informed consent. He's not trying to tell people necessarily what they can and can't take. He just wants to make sure that everybody is aware that when they're taking this jab or eating that food, that it's probably going to kill them. Let's get into this article over at dailywire.com by Mary Margaret Olahan. It's good to get into some straight politics every now and then, especially right now. We are at a crucial time, okay? As President Trump's nominees are hopefully all going to be confirmed in a very timely manner, it's good to have support from people that are going to be directly affected by them. Over 100 people in the detransitioner community have signed a letter expressing support for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Services ahead of his confirmation hearings, the Daily Wire has learned. According to the letter that they obtained, we believe that Kennedy will not dismiss our narratives. The message is directed to the United States Senate and argues that Kennedy has an impressive track record of advocating for true informed consent in healthcare. It is signed by many individuals, especially young women who tried to transition to another gender before realizing that such a thing was impossible. Signers include detransitioners Chloe Cole, Laura Becker, Prisha Mosley, Abel Garcia, and Luca Hain, as well as family members of detransitioners, activists fighting against gender ideology, and members of the broader LGBTQ community who feel strongly about health freedom. That's a group that has often been dismissed or downplayed by legacy media outlets who echo the talking points of activist organizations like the Human Rights Campaign and praise gender transition procedures as life-saving. Gender-affirming care, they say. But they always highlight or try to highlight the quote-unquote positive cases. And here's the thing. It's a tough job being in legacy media. It's a tough job because on this particular topic, because they have to try to find, first, it's hard to find people that are true quote-unquote success cases when it comes to childhood transition. They might be able to find some adults who have transitioned and now they feel like they're happier, or at least pretend like they feel like they're happier. What's that actress's name? Ellen Page, or what is Elliot is what she goes by now. Ellen Page, it's so funny. No, it's not funny. It's very sad, actually. Because here was a young lady who seemed very happy before. She went through, transitioned, had all the surgeries, took all the hormones, cut her hair, cut other things, and then all of a sudden, she's allegedly a boy, right? But in literally every interview that she's done since then, maybe not the ones that she did immediately afterwards, but over the last couple of years, since the operation, since the transition, it's like they're interviewing a corpse. She's just like, yeah, I'm so happy. It's like, really, dude? Woman, chick, whatever? Very weird stuff. So what they won't do, though, and they have an easy time doing, is absolutely positively ignoring people like Chloe Cole. People who have regretted not only making the decision as a child to permanently disfigure themselves, but who also were allowed by their parents or guardians and doctors who all should have known better. These are child abusers, period. I'm sorry, that's going to get me banned on probably YouTube for saying it, or Facebook or whatever for saying it, but I got to say it. It's child abuse, okay? You can't get a tattoo as a child in most states. How are you allowed in these same states to permanently disfigure and remove the potential to have biological children, the potential to enjoy sexual intercourse? These are things that a child should not be allowed to decide. And a parent should not allow their child to decide. And a doctor should advise thoroughly against and be unwilling to perform such quote-unquote gender-affirming care. It's demonic. This is such a demonic thing, and I'm so glad that these people are recognizing that it really does come down to one thing: informed consent. Informed consent it's a two-way street, to be clear. There are certain things where you need to give your consent, and as you have to have the understanding in order to give the consent, but you also have to have the maturity. Okay, there are certain things that you just can't. I mean, there's a reason why, for example, contracts that are signed when somebody is drunk or otherwise impaired are null and void. There's a reason for this. And that's for just basic contracts. Why do we allow children to make decisions that will damage them permanently, that will change their lives irreversibly? I feel so sad for detransitioners because they cannot fully detransition. Not all the way. They might be able to reacquire some of their actual sex, their actual gender. But once they start getting, whether it's hormonal or surgical or both, the changes that were done to them as children, as young adults even, they can't be fully reversed. They will never be the same. And so, yeah, I feel very bad for them. But I'm glad that they did recognize RFK Jr.'s commitment to making sure that people understand what it is that they're really getting into with anything, whether it's what they eat, what injections they take, what surgeries they have. Informed consent is the backbone of a truly healthy society. Once you start getting into forcing people, whether through coercion or by actual force, once you start taking people down these unhealthy tracks, you are risking the future of the nation itself.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Here's a true story. I was testing out some coffee. This has been almost a year ago. Testing out some coffee for a potential sponsor. and I made the coffee, and I went about my morning routine, did my work, doing my thing, and then I took my first sip of coffee, and it struck me. I'm like, holy crap. I had forgotten that I had was testing out this new coffee. I just took the first sip, and I was like, wow, this is really good. And then I remembered, oh my gosh, this is Promised Grounds. This is the stuff that they sent me. So I started drinking some more of it, and I have become a lifetime customer of Promised Grounds. They are a Christian coffee company, which I know you don't see a whole lot of them. They give back to the community. They're Texas, all American, all Texan, just like a lot of the stuff that we do. Check them out. Go to jdrucker.com/coffee, jdrucker.com/coffee, and check out Promised Grounds. It's great. JD Vance reiterates Trump will pardon peaceful January 6 prisoners, not violent offenders. Now, it's good that this is the last story of the day. This will be one that is, I know that a lot of you are going to disagree with me. Let's just say that. Yeah, a lot of you will. But it is what it is. I have my feelings. You have yours. We are intelligent people, and we can disagree on things. But this article over at Infowars.com it's actually from LifeSite. I should have just grabbed it from the source. By Calvin Freiberger says, let's see. Vice President-elect of the United States, JD Vance, reiterated over the weekend that the Trump administration intends to issue pardons to anyone unjustly prosecuted by the Biden administration. That should be it. Period. But there's more. Unjustly prosecuted by the Biden administration for peacefully protesting certification of the 2020 presidential election on January 6, 2021, while not pardoning the few who engaged in actual violence on Capitol Hill. Now, right there, it's already like, oh my gosh, how could I disagree with that? Oh, I'll explain. But let's continue with the article. The January 6th protest at the Capitol broke out following returning President Donald Trump's rally, which was meant to encourage Congress to delay certification of the 2020 presidential election, which was stolen, results over reports of voter fraud in several states. Viral videos showed some people physically attacking police, pushing against security barricades, breaking through windows, trespassing in congressional offices, and climbing on walls, causing the vote certification to be suspended and lawmakers to be evacuated from the chambers. Other videos, however, also showed that many were let into the Capitol by police and simply walked the halls after the initial breach. Several people died, though some after the fact, and had nothing to do with the actual event, but that's a different discussion. The only fatal victim of direct intentional violence was unarmed Trump supporter Ashley Babbitt, shot by a Capitol police officer while she was climbing through an interior window. Trump's political opponents blamed him for inciting hostilities, which they called an insurrection, leading to an unsuccessful second impeachment attempt. Yet, despite the FBI failing to find evidence that the violence was planned or organized, more than a dozen Democrat committee investigations into the event continued for years, with hundreds of people arrested and many expressing concerns about their treatment and disproportionate, politically motivated punishment. In other words, they were, and are, many of them still, political prisoners. Appearing on Fox News Sunday, Vance told host Shannon Bream, "I think it's very simple. Look, if you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. There's a little bit of gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. There are a lot of people we think in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly. We need to rectify that." And he's absolutely correct about that part. It does need to be rectified. But here's why I am a firm believer in a blanket pardon across the board, all J6ers. And that's because we now know, it's been demonstrated and proven, that there were FBI assets who were promoting violence. There were people that have been suspected or accused of being FBI assets, such as Ray Epps, who were calling for people to storm the Capitol, to go into the building itself, even before January 6th. We also know that Antifa and other antagonizers were there trying to promote violence. It seems to me that the the powers that be were promoting. They wanted an insurrection. They wanted as much violence as possible. They wanted death. Now, is that an excuse? It's like, okay, well, if I'm being pushed along or encouraged by this guy, does that mean that I should go throw a rock at a cop? No, absolutely not. I am not condoning the violence that was committed. What I'm saying is that the violence itself, I would argue, we cannot prove that the violence would have occurred had the deep state, the FBI agents or whoever, the assets, if they didn't promote the violence, would the violence have happened? We will never know. If Nancy Pelosi or Mayor Bowser, if they had accepted President Trump's very logical and sound common sense offer of 10,000 National Guardsmen to be at the Capitol that day, would any of this have happened? I would argue that that is a resounding no. In other words, what we witnessed on January 6th, including with the violent offenders, what we witnessed was fabricated. It was manufactured. Not fabricated, that's the wrong word. It was manufactured by nefarious folks who wanted there to be violence. They wanted there to be an insurrection. They set this up to go after not only Trump, but Trump's supporters. They wanted to prevent him from ever being in the White House ever again. And they wanted to quiet, quell, subvert, suppress us, you and me. This was all calculated. This was all intended. And therefore, since we cannot know whether or not the violence that did occur at the Capitol, we cannot know that that violence would have occurred if there weren't people, non-Trump supporters, members of the deep state, assets of the deep state. If they weren't promoting the violence, would the violence have happened? I don't know. JD Vance doesn't know. Nobody can know. And as a result of that, to me, I think that there should be blanket pardons, because this was a staged event. I don't want to use the word entrapment because it doesn't quite fall under that very narrow definition. But they were entrapped, if you can understand the distinction there. They were put into a situation and pushed in a direction. Now, should they have not engaged in violence? Absolutely. I mean, again, I'm not trying to say that they should not have suffered some sort of penalty. They have. They've been in jail. Okay, great. Now pardon them. They have fulfilled what I believe qualifies as enough time, enough suffering, enough punishment. So now is the time to do a blanket pardon. I'm hopeful that that's still the case. I really am. I don't think it is. I'm hopeful that what JD Vance is doing is basically separating himself in a way from Trump on this one issue. You know, no hard feelings there. Just Trump pardons them all. JD Vance says, hey, I said we should just go after the non-violent offenders. Trump wanted to pardon them all. That's his prerogative. He's president of the United States. That keeps Vance in a position to where he doesn't have to answer for the events. Trump doesn't have to answer for them. Trump can pardon everybody and not there's no consequences because he can't run again. So he should pardon them. JD Vance should. I have nothing against JD Vance saying what he's saying. I just wish that it were possible to have my cake and eat it too. For Vance to be separated from the blowback for doing a blanket pardon, but for Trump to go ahead and throw out a blanket pardon. Across the board, anybody associated with J6 convictions, pardon them all and be done with it. Put this behind us. It won't be. They'll still say, oh my gosh, look at, here's an example of a guy that this guy threw a bottle at a cop and Trump pardoned him. He only served 2 years in prison or whatever. We can't get into whataboutisms because that's not our way. But I would argue that if you look at some of the punishments laid down to, for example, the Summer of Love rioters who did actual damage and harm, more so than many of the J6ers, and still got far less punishment. Again, it's all relative. I don't want to dwell on it. I just, like I said, I want a blanket pardon. You probably feel differently because I think I do have the minority view even amongst conservatives, but that's why I have my show, because I can have these types of crazy opinions. Lord willing, I will be back very soon with another episode, but in the meantime, y'all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.
I'm Jonathan Rose, CEO of Genesis Gold Group. As Americans, we work hard every day to provide for our families and ensure their future. But with the uncertainty facing our economy, it is more important than ever to safeguard your wealth and protect your retirement savings. Educated investors look to safe haven assets to shield themselves from the economic storm. Tangible assets like gold and silver can provide stability, security, and most importantly, peace of mind. In 1997, the Taxpayer Relief Act allowed Americans to hold physical precious metals like gold and silver in their IRAs for the first time. Today, Genesis Gold Group helps our clients transfer existing IRAs, 401ks, and other retirement accounts into physical gold and silver, tax and penalty free. With thousands of satisfied clients, 5-star reviews, and fully accredited with the Better Business Bureau, our experienced team is here to help you navigate the process, start to finish. Now is the time to educate yourself on the importance of a diversified portfolio, including tangible assets like gold and silver. Call now to receive our free wealth protection kit and digital dollar defense guide. Call now and we'll include our extremely popular silver prepper bar free when you open your account. Add it to your IRA or have it sent to your home. Call Genesis Gold Group today at 800-200-GOLD. Prepper bar only available through Genesis Gold Group.
In a world of uncertainty, be prepared with Silver Prepper Bars. Introducing the Silver Prepper Bar. Crafted from 0.999 pure silver and proudly made in the USA. Portable, perforated, and easily tradable, the Silver Prepper Bar is your lifeline in times of crisis. Silver Prepper Bars provide peace of mind. Don't leave your future to chance. Order your Silver Prepper Bars now at prepperbar.com. Silver Prepper Bars, ready for whatever tomorrow